Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be responsible for growth in male speakers at this event. So before I get into the meat of the presentation, I wanted to talk a little bit about Environmental Defense Fund and our clean energy program. I look out of this room and I would just love to figure out a way to bring all this energy and passion into the environmental advocacy movement. There's just tremendous opportunity now to build a clean future for our children. So EDF is an environmental advocacy organization that leverages the power of markets to address the most pressing environmental challenges in the world. We focus on these 4 areas with staff in offices around the world. Work with individuals in government, the corporate sector, private sector, and advocacy. So everybody in this room, basically. Our clean energy program focuses on the electricity sector. In the US today, the electricity sector is responsible for 40% of climate emissions. But that sector is at a tipping point. A number of transitions are occurring, ranging from federal policy, the drop in cost of renewables, which we just heard about, and smarter customers, more empowered customers, and engaged customers. Our program wants to capture all that and push the right set of rules and regulations so that we can fully transition this sector across the country. So I put this slide up with the question, why work on electricity reform in California? There's just so much going on already. For California, I think about it, it's sort of a too big to fail type situation, and we don't want to have to engage in any questionable bailouts. So there's just a lot of good foundational pieces happening to capitalize on innovative policy and market solutions and scale them up. And we want to make sure the state exceeds its ambitious climate and energy policies. Right now, we're supposed to reduce our emissions by 40% in 2030 and have renewables, have half of our energies sourced by renewables by 2030 as well. This is important because it sets a tone for the rest of the country. I'm looking at states like New York and Oregon who are just trying to catch up with what California is doing. So it's important that we deliver on that promise. And we're doing it while maintaining a staggering amount of economic growth. California's GDP grew 3% in 2014, far outpacing the rest of the country. And advanced energy jobs generated jobs at a rate 6 times faster than the rest of the economy. We heard about energy efficiency, and that's responsible for keeping our per capita costs for energy some of the lowest in the country. So we use less, we're more efficient, and we have a positive impact on economic health. And the potential is not even fully tapped. Studies suggest that we can get up to 75% of our power in the state from solar rooftops. Another suggests that California gets about 8 times more power from distributed energy resources than any other state. So there's just tremendous opportunity, potential, and progress to build on. But there's still some challenges, and I wanted to sort of explore those before getting to some of the big policy issues we're working on. So some of you may be familiar with this graph. It's the Duct Curve, because it looks like a duck. And some of you are like, it's 2016, the Cubs won the World Series, we need something new to look at on the electricity sector. So I don't want to spend too much on it, but it just helps set the stage for the challenge that we're facing. As you see that big dip, the belly there, that means that the energy the utilities have to provide is going negative because of the growth of rooftop solar and growth of distributed resources. That is a fantastic situation, but it also creates a lot of stress on the system because we have to take off a lot of baseload power during that time. And when we take it off, we have to then ramp it up. And so that's the neck of the duck. So that's 13,000 megawatts that have to come online in 3 hours. That's a lot of volatility and instability in the system. But I want to point to the fact that it's caused by a good thing. It's caused by the fact that we have a lot of renewables, particularly solar, in our economy. And we can't waste those resources because of these grid constraints. We have to find new markets. We have to keep those resources economically motivated and the cost down. So we need new markets. And we need to continue to build smart, progressive policy that brings in those distributed energy resources. Certain events recently have kind of accentuated our problem and really shown why we need to double down on future reform. We're getting to a point where our system is primarily sourced by renewables, clean sources like storage and efficiency, and gas-fired resources. Gas historically has played a role as a flexible resource that help meet that intermittency that when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. And that's good and it's important, but it also has risks. And those risks we saw dramatically a year ago with the Aliso Canyon well leak that emitted 9 million metric tons of carbon into the air and set us back climate-wise in the state for years. But Aliso showed in dramatic fashion the role natural gas plays in the electric system and the need to figure out a way to transition off of that because of these risks and do it in a manageable fashion. So I've articulated the challenge. I'll talk a little bit about the two solutions that we're working on. The first is a concept known as regionalization. This is a push by the state to figure out how to take those 40 independent grids you see on the screen and consolidate them into one, creating one big electricity market. The advantage of that is that you have resources moving almost half the state in real time and day-ahead schedules, being able to be sourced all these different customers. And in a market that preferences least cost, that overwhelmingly preferences renewables. So suddenly, all that California midday sun has a place to play. That's good for solar businesses, it's good for customers, our grid and our health. And it improves with scale. As we grow that grid, it creates ratepayer savings of $1.5 billion, and it reduces carbon across the grid by 4%, as well as 10% in California. And we can help push those states like Wyoming and Utah, which are fossil fuel states, to come and value clean energy resources more. Couple that with the Clean Power Plan by the Obama administration. So please go vote so we can protect that. So that's just an optimistic view. There is a ton of issues to be ironed out around regionalization. But those concerns are being talked about in the legislative and stakeholder issues, and the idea of tracking emissions is a way to address the fact that we want to know how those resources are contributing and impacting communities across those grids. We want to make sure that state energy policies like California's 50% renewables policy is protected and valued in a grid. And we want to make sure that stakeholders like environmental justice groups, environmental groups, clean tech operators, have an opportunity to convey what they're doing to a regional entity. So it's an important issue to track. If you're engaged in policy issues, I encourage you to learn more about it, and I'm happy to talk to you afterwards about it as well. The final issue I want to talk to you about is called time of use pricing, or TOU. TOU incentivizes people to consume energy when it costs the least or there's abundance of clean energy resources. And we use price signals to do that. It helps reduce pollution, it helps shift demand, and it helps us stop building more power plants. It's known as a type of demand response, which varies the level of demand in real-time use using smart devices and incentives. DR potential, like so many other clean energy resources in the state, is huge. We can generate almost a gigawatt of power from time of use. Currently, the main utilities are piloting TOU rates. They're looking at what type of rate it needs to be during the periods of day. They're looking at bill impacts, load impacts, and with customers in geographies across California. It's important to test these benefits and make sure TOU works for all Californians, especially the most vulnerable, like our seniors in the Central Valley. By 2019, the utilities will default to TOU rates. But it also offers a chance to enable a lot of other clean energy resources. For example, in San Diego Gas and Electric, they're piloting an EV charging rate, which gives customers an incentive to go to electric vehicles and also to envision a future where we have vehicle-to-grid storage. We can construct smart rates that incorporate a Nest thermostat, a Tesla battery wall, a rooftop panel, and all types of clean energy innovation so that you can fully optimize that customer load. So at the end of the day, TOU is a key vehicle for smoothing out our load and adding predictability back to the power grid. And that's good. Ultimately, we want to empower customers. It's a means to motivate market innovation and feed customer action. So that's the conclusion of our policy issues today. I'm really proud of the next slide, and I don't think you guys will have any questions about it.